All right, guys, welcome into the AfterSchrock. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to get connected here and make sure the audio levels are good and everybody can hear me okay. But basically, the AfterSchrock is for stuff that we didn't quite get in on the program or interesting stuff that's kind of going on at the company that, didn't really warrant airtime, basically. So as people get connected, if you would, let me know that everything is going well for you, that you can hear me okay, and then I'll go ahead and get started into it. But we had some fun this weekend. The lovely Kimberly and I, we have date days on Friday because I would work 7 days a week if she let me. And so on date day, that's like a no work kind of day. So, but sometimes there's compromises. So, for example, if we were, say, to drive to Des Moines to go antiquing, of course, perhaps we could also go through and, get some real estate looked at, maybe. Sorry, I was hearing the radio show that he's editing in the other room to go on the website later, and I was like, wait a minute, are they replaying the show? But basically, we went to Des Moines and we looked at some of the real estate out there for a new Schrock service center because we're trying to time it out. Like, when do we want to open this? How do we want to open it? Ideally, we wanted the radio show in Des Moines to be on for a year before we decided to open it. We are getting increased listenership out of Des Moines. I get an email, at least one email every week from somebody listening over there that talks about how much they love the show and how they just kind of stumbled into it on Des Moines radio. So as a result, we said, okay, well, maybe by the summertime we'll be ready to do this. So we went and looked, and we were in the West Des Moines area. Oh gosh, what was the name? Jordan Crossing or something like that. But there's a mall around there, and then there's a lot of real estate around the mall, and the mall just kept going and going and going. There was new construction across the street from the mall. I mean, it was like you could just see everything being developed around there. With okay, this isn't a bad location, but the traffic there is so much heavier than it is in Omaha. Which you think Omaha traffic is bad, our rush hour is like their regular day. That's wow, it's like there's a lot more people there. So all right. Yeah, Thomas, the exploding cards. I felt a little bit guilty leading everybody on the whole hour about exploding debit cards because there were some people listening that were like, "Oh no!" and they like took their wallet out. They're like, "Oh no!" Back away slow. Back away slow. No sudden movements. But no, I mean, the sad thing is people are falling for that scam. They're sending in the debit card. So what better way to make it memorable than to make you think it was real for 45 minutes and then tell you it ain't real? So hopefully I didn't freak anybody out too much. Um, you have a hard time finding the AfterSchrock show sometimes. Oh, that's Facebook for you, I guess. I don't know. If I had an easier way to tell you all about it, I would, but it posts it right up there. The other thing too is if you missed Schrock Innovation Show, if you missed Compute This, or if you missed the AfterSchrock, I do allow them to be saved and archived on our Facebook page so that you can come back and watch it anytime that's convenient for you. Also, if you're watching the show or you're watching the AfterSchrock, if you could take a moment to like Schrock Innovations and share the show. In fact, sometimes if you make a comment on the show or give me a thumbs up or something, I'll send you an invitation to like Schrock. So let's do that. Let's play that game. Everybody click thumbs up. Like, thumbs up, heart, whatever. Click a little emotional icon thing, an emojicon. Click that, and then after the thing is over, if any of you have not liked Schrock Innovations, I will invite you to like the page. It's pretty cool. It allows me to do that if somebody clicks, but you have to click like thumbs up or something. Oh, an angry face? Who gave me an angry face? Oh, golly, man. Your invitation might get lost in the mail, Mr. Angry Face. All right, so we went looking around there for that. Let's see, in the service centers here, we've got Eli and Kane. I want to throw a huge attaboy out for Eli and Kane in the Lincoln Service Center. These kids have been with us for about a month now, and they are the next generation of Schrock employees. They are literally, you can't find people that care like they care. They're still learning a lot about the systems and what Schrock is and how we do what we do. But the nice thing is these kids, when I hired them, I mean, they knew tech because almost every kid these days knows tech, but they had never done technology in a repair environment, like a services for money rendered kind of thing, where there's an expectation and a responsibility to perform because a customer is paying you. So that aspect of it is new to them, and there's pressure that goes along with that. A lot of pressure sometimes. How do you anticipate, the things that customers are going to do when they get home. Like, it takes time. We had a customer that called us up after he took his computer home. Unfortunately, he lived like an hour and 40 minutes away. He got home and hooked up his ancient Windows 95 keyboard with a round PS2 hole. Yes, the computer does have a port on the back that allows you to plug in PS2 devices. The reason it does is the manufacturer of the motherboard doesn't assume you're going to run Windows. They say, well, you might be running Linux or some other operating system. So those operating systems are still compatible with those PS2 keyboards. However, Windows 10 is not. Sometimes you get lucky and they work. Most of the time they don't. So he got home and he was outraged, just livid I mean, these guys have been there a month, and they're like, Thor, what do we do? He says his keyboard won't work, and he said the keyboard worked fine on the old computer, and there's nothing wrong with his keyboard, and he was angry about it. Well, did you ask him if it was a PS2 plug? And the kids are like, what's a PS2 plug? Because that's older than them. That's how old the keyboard is. The kids don't even know what the heck. It's like, did you ask him to remove the floppy drive? What's that? So the PS2 keyboard, that's what it was. If he has a round plug for his keyboard, that's not compatible with Windows 10. He needs a new keyboard. If he needs a keyboard and mouse set, we can ship him one. We can mail it out to him. He'll have it tomorrow. We won't charge him any shipping on it. Whatever the case might be. We probably should have mentioned when we sold him the computer that if you have a keyboard from Bill Clinton, you might want to replace that with a new keyboard to make it compatible. It's one of the things that the veterans at Schrock know to just kind of throw in passing. Oh yeah, so you have a keyboard and mouse at home? Okay, great. How old is that one? Okay, you'll be fine. Do you know if it's round or square on the plug? Square? Okay, you'll be fine. It's just one of those things that you kind of throw in passing as you're checking out to make sure that the customer doesn't need a keyboard and mouse. These new kids need those thumps to learn those lessons, and they're working so hard at getting them, but they're hanging in there. They're hanging tough, and it was Eli sold his first computer. So we sold a venture in the Lincoln Service Center on Friday, and whoever that was, you worked with Eli. And that was the first computer he had ever sold. And the text messages I received after he sold that computer, you made his day. You made his day. And he was just thrilled. He was like, I told you I could do it. And it was like, oh my gosh, these kids they're working so hard and they're so good. I appreciate the patience you've had with them as we get them trained up, but they're doing great. Nikki in the Papillion Service Center, new front desk there, is rocking the house. Holy cow. She's doing an amazing job in Papillion. We also are hiring, we need 2 more senior technicians for the Lincoln Service Center. I mentioned a few weeks ago that a company came in and hired our whole staff out of Lincoln. So now we're getting those people replaced, and it doesn't do you any good to replace them all at one time. You want to bring in a couple, train them up, bring in another couple that can benefit from the group knowledge. Then you're building basically an ecosystem of training, as opposed to bringing in 4 people who don't know what they're doing, and you go in all these different directions, and you're trying to wrestle a bag of snakes trying to figure out where everybody's at. So we're hiring 1 full-time. We just put an offer out for a guy for a new full-time senior technician for Omaha, and we need 2 senior technicians in Lincoln. So if you are in the Lincoln metro area and you enjoy the show because you're a tech person and you're looking for that kind of position, we do have 2 openings in Lincoln. We'd love to have you apply. We have our job posted on Indeed.com right now. You go to Indeed and you search for Schrock, S-C-H-R-O-C-K, you'll find that there. All right, so let's see, what else did we not get to? Did you hear about the Chinese smartphone manufacturer? Was it Huawei? Is that how we figured out? I already forgot how it was pronounced. We had a big thing about this the other day, and we were like, pronounce. Let me make sure I get it right, so I don't want to be misconstrued as being socially insensitive. Huawei, that's right. It's pronounced Huawei. So the cell phone maker, the largest cell phone maker in the world, I might add, Chinese cell phone maker Huawei, was recently banned in Australia from their 5G network expansion. Now, when you think about this, do you remember being in Nebraska, the first time we ever were exposed to 4G technology? It was Verizon that did it, and they did it in a big way. They went to Lincoln during a Husker football game, and they put mobile basically 4G towers all around the stadium. And they linked them all together to the landline network and the existing cellular network, and then everybody in the stadium got to experience, LTE, 4G LTE internet for the first time. Which, when you're used to 3G and the first time you get 4G, oh my gosh, it's like the world has been unlocked to you. And at that time, when everyone was building out their 4G networks, the United States government, China wanted to sell 4G equipment all across the United States and have it installed on all the cell phone towers. But they, like Russia, have a law on the books that any Chinese company can be compelled at any time to help the Chinese government with anything, intelligence gathering or otherwise. So it really wouldn't be in the best security interest of the United States to have a bunch of Huawei 4G repeaters running all of our cell phone traffic throughout the United States, because important people use cell phones too. Important people in government, for example, use cell phones too. And you don't want their conversations being listened to. So now the whole thing is playing over again with 5G. 5G makes 4G look like a joke. 5G makes your cable modem at your home look like a joke. 5G is going to be the first time where if you're in a city or a metropolitan area with 5G internet, you can get rid of your entire cable company. Replace it with a router with a 5G chip in it and go completely wireless for all your internet. That's how fast it is. It is stupid fast. You can stream easily over it. So this is the big next generation thing, and it's not just happening in the United States. Australia is putting a 5G network up as well. And recently, Australia banned Huawei from putting their equipment into Australia for the same reasons. Now, Huawei claims that this is a politically motivated ban. Huawei has slammed the 5G ban announced this week by the Australian government, saying it is not based on fact or the result of a transparent process, but rather motivated by the current leadership spill occurring in the Liberal Party. In other words, basically, Australia is having their own Australia First kind of election right now. They're having a populist election, and the populists are winning. So one of the first things that they're doing is they're saying, well, do we really want China having this kind of control over our communications network? The Australian government's decision to block Huawei from Australia's 5G network is politically motivated. And the blah, 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 resolved transparent, not an equitable decision-making process. It is not aligned with the long-term interest of the Australian people and denies Australian businesses and consumers the right to choose from the best communications technology available, Huawei said. So basically, this is the same game. I read a great article on China and what they've been doing for the last 15 years. They've been trading access to the Chinese market for technology. So you can have access to our marketplace, Google, Facebook, Apple, whoever, and sell your products to our people. But in exchange for that, we need to know exactly how your product works inside and out, so that we can make sure we can control. It's a communist country. They want to control the narrative, the information flow. But also, in telling them how the product works inside and out, you're transferring the knowledge of how that technology works. How did Huawei become the biggest cell phone manufacturer in the world? When they didn't invent the cell phone, they didn't manufacture the first cell phones or smartphones. The smartphone is an American invention, and very much like the VCR was an American invention. How is it all of a sudden that Japan started making all the VCRs? I remember that when I was a kid. It was like in the 80s. Japan's buying the whole country. So when I hear some of the stuff about China, I kind of take it with a grain of salt a little bit, because it's like Japan, Sony was the big enemy. Japan's buying the whole country. Cheap Japanese garbage, things like that. So I take some of the China stuff with a grain of salt, because I've been through that before with the Japan thing. But it is very true that China is forcing companies to give up their technology in order to access the market. And so when you get the access to the market, you can sell the stuff. Now, here's the problem. The other thing that China's doing is they're offering cut rate, so cheaper electronics equipment in order to gain a foothold in a foreign country where then they can expand the market share and push other competitors out. Excuse me. So while it's true, what China is saying is factually true. They're offering 5G technology cheaper than anyone else in Australia can offer it. They didn't invent 5G technology. But somehow they're the biggest manufacturer of it in the world. Manufacturing it possibly at a loss? Why would they do that? Maybe it's not a loss. Maybe they're making a little bit of money on it. But they're much cheaper than a lot of the other counterparts. So as a result, the same thing that the United States did with 4G technology and is now doing with 5G technology, Australia is now doing. All right, let's see here. I'm looking for Australia's response here. Huawei is a world leader in 5G and has safely and securely delivered wireless technology in Australia for close to 15 years. Huawei is a big player in Australia. It's an extremely disappointing result for consumers. So everything is about the consumers here. Huawei doesn't care about their company. They're deeply disappointed and concerned for the consumers of Australia, who they're desperately trying to provide with cheap, fast internet, and the Australian government has the audacity to get in the way. How dare you stop us from giving this cheap, plentiful internet to the people of Australia? Government has expectations of the application of the TSSR obligations with respect to the involvement of third-party vendors in 5G networks, blah, 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 blah. Basic jargony government statement. Quote, the government considers that the involvement of vendors who are likely to be subject to extrajudicial directions from a foreign government, that's a fancy way of saying the government can say, Huawei, we need to listen in on every cell phone call in Australia this week. Go. And Huawei has no ability to do it, no ability to warn anybody. They're just required to comply. And of course, Huawei will say, we don't have the capability to do that. So China would come in and say, develop the capability to do that now. Okay, because we have to. So extrajudicial directions from a foreign government that conflict with Australian law may risk failure by the carrier to adequately protect a 5G network from an unauthorized access or interference. According to Morrison, a 5G network security would have fundamental implications for all citizens for the next 10 years. The government's telecommunications sector security reforms, which commence on September 18th, place obligations on telecommunications companies to protect Australian networks from unauthorized interference or access that might prejudice our national security. So basically, they're doing the same thing we did, guys. It's just they're knocking it down based on security. If you eat at Cheddar's Scratch Kitchen, 500,000 customers of Cheddar's Scratch Kitchen were involved in possible credit card data theft. Customers of the restaurant chain need to keep an eye on their bank accounts as their information may be up for sale. Customers of Cheddar Scratch Kitchen restaurants in 23 states are being warned, we have one in Omaha, that their credit card information may have been exposed in a suspected data breach. On Thursday, Darden Restaurants, which acquired the restaurant chain last year, said the federal authorities warned the company of a security incident on October 16th. Information belonging to guests of Cheddar Scratch Kitchen visiting between November 3rd of 17 through January 2nd of 2018 may have been compromised. The leak potentially includes payment card information and credit card numbers. In total, 567,000 customers are believed to be affected, but as the company is still investigating, this number may rise. Cheddar's restaurants are located in Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Delaware, Florida, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Missouri, Nebraska, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Texas, Virginia, and Wisconsin are all involved in the breach. There's a song. You remember that song from grade school? Alabama, Alaska, Arizona. It teaches you all the names of the states in alphabetical order. Oh my God, it's from grade school and it's still locked in there. Useless knowledge. But that's what that paragraph read like to me. I was like, well, can I just put this to music? It might be more entertaining. Probably not. Darden said the data breach may have occurred due to old legacy point-of-sale systems. After the acquisition, improvements were made, and this included the permanent removal of the old systems in April. Therefore, the same attack vector cannot be used in the future. So in other words, they're telling everybody this happened back in the day before we bought the restaurant. This is like the best kind of data breach. We bought the restaurant, and those old shabby owners, they didn't upgrade their point-of-sale terminals before because they were selling it. So they're like, why do we need to upgrade anything? Darden can do it. So when we bought it, we had to throw all the credit card terminals away and put new ones in because, of course, Darden changed them over to their payment processors. The more transactions you run through a credit card merchant processor, the lower your rates go. So, of course, someone like Darden that owns I think they own like Red Lobster, Olive Garden, like they own almost all the big chain restaurants. They're going to push all those transactions through one little narrow hole to get the best rate possible. That's why they replaced the terminals. But I digress. But they replaced all the terminals, so now it's safe. So if you eat at Cheddar's today, if you go there for brunch or lunch or dinner or whatever, you'll be safe. But if you ate there around Christmas time last year, if that was your big Christmas outing with the family, yeah, you could have been paying for a little bit more than the meal. All right, guys, last call for questions here. Let me take a look at the comments before we disconnect. Let's see. So when are we going to get 5G out here? Good question, Thomas. They are actually experimenting with 5G towers right now in the Midwest. The Omaha metro area is considered a Class C metropolitan area. The Des Moines metro area is going to be a Class B, along with Chicago, along with, gosh, I'm trying to think, Minneapolis. Class A would be Los Angeles, New York, Houston, Dallas, places like that, real big places. Those cities already have some 5G capability. But you don't have any 5G devices really yet, as a rule, because the device makers aren't going to manufacture a 5G device until the 5G towers are in place. So it's a chicken and the egg game. But once those 5G towers start popping up, and of course they'll be backward compatible, so they'll put the 5G probably in the next generation of phones, I'm guessing, will have 5G capability, which is how they're going to get everyone to pay for that next big iPhone after you forked out all that money for the iPhone X or the $1,200 for the Galaxy Note. How are you going to buy the next phone after that? Well, these are 5G. The internet's like stupid fast. But also expect that. See, I have a Sprint plan that I'm never going to get rid of because I have unlimited internet across all my devices. I don't know if there's throttling, but if there is, I haven't seen it. But I have no limit. Unlimited internet, unlimited texting, free nights and weekends after 7 p.m. on the weekdays, and then all weekend long it's free, and free cell phone to cell phone, which back in the day when cell phones were new and I got this plan, that was a big deal, right? So if you call somebody else's phone, that call is free. But if you call a landline, you got to pay. Well, now that almost everybody has cell phones, that's pretty much all you call. So it's like I have 1,500 minutes a month on like 5 phones, and we never run out of minutes. It's amazing. So when they get 5G, I'm going to be like, woo! I'm going to get everything on the 5G plan. It's going to be great. But yeah, so let's take a look. Maybe there's some information on that. Let's see. 5G availability in Omaha. 5G availability in Omaha because Thomas asked, and while that's very slowly searching, we'll also search for 5G availability in Des Moines. All right. And We Are Iowa. What is 5G? Okay, We Are Iowa has information for you. Is there a We Are Nebraska? No, this is Nebraska. Nebraska legislators hung up on 5G wireless bill. That's from April of this year. Okay. 5G, blah, blah, blah. How fast will it be? 5G has the potential to offer speeds 40 times faster than 4G. So 40 times faster than your current cell phone. Fast enough to stream 8K video. Does your TV even do 8K video? Or download 3D movies in 6 seconds. Unfortunately, there's a difference in lab experiments from reality. Peak speeds are fun to dream about, but in the real world, they're a little slower. Nokia, one of the biggest 5G players, believes its 5G technology will allow for real speeds of about 100 megabits a second, which is about as fast as your wired network at home, which for cellular is still stupid fast. That's when the network is most congested, which is about 4 times faster. So 5 times faster is about right. What will work? When is it coming? None of these questions are going to be answered anytime soon. The industry's consensus is that 5G experiments that it did in South Korea during the 2018 Winter Olympics, mass deployment sometime in 2020. So they're doing experiments right now, but it looks like 2020, which is a year and a half from now, basically. Yet Verizon says it's working on 5G technology with the aim of bringing it to market much earlier, as soon as 2017. So now let's take a look at Verizon 5G availability. Let's see that, because that's pretty quick. Now, Nebraska, on the other hand, dun, 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 Lincoln. A bill the wireless industry says would help Nebraska ramp up for the next generation of high-speed communications has hit a roadblock. Sponsored by your cable company's lobbyists. I'm just guessing. I don't have any inside information. I shouldn't say things like that, but it now appears stalled for the year. Senators who opposed the bill said it would have allowed wireless companies to reap profits from the public's property while hamstringing the ability of local governments to control the right-of-way. Okay, let's give them the benefit here. Lawmakers who backed the proposed expressed disbelief that their colleagues would pass up hundreds of millions of dollars in private investment that could build improved wireless technology many Nebraskans clearly want. Yeah. Slim and none, said Senator Kurt Friesen, the bill's sponsor, when asked about his chances of finding 33 votes to break through a filibuster. They filibustered it? LB 389 would have set statewide regulations and fees for companies to install what are called small cell wireless antennas on new and existing poles in public spaces. The small cells can be used to handle existing wireless traffic in dense urban settings that will help make the jump to what's promised to be much faster 5th generation technology in the future. Most refer to the coming network as 5G. The bill would have capped the annual fee collected by municipalities for each small cell at $20 and set caps for one-time fees as well. Wireless carriers like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile lobbied hard for the bill and said the surrounding states of Iowa, Kansas, and Colorado adopted similar laws to get their infrastructure developed. Friesen said senators said the wireless industry was not asking for tax incentives or subsidies. He called it the most important economic development of the session. Supporters also criticized Omaha for seeking fees in the hundreds of dollars for each antenna. 5G transmission speed is faster, but the range is smaller. So you need more antennas. So basically, the state wants $100 an antenna, or hundreds of dollars, and Lincoln wants close to $2,000 for each installation. Holy crikey! Senator Jim Smith of Papillion, who led the filibuster, oh, come on, dude, that's my guy. Why would you? Said that municipalities should be allowed to negotiate fees that reflect the market value of the public space. He also said that small cells represent a potential safety hazard for power line workers. Opponents who lobbied against the bill included Omaha, Lincoln, and the League of Nebraska Municipalities. So what this amounts to is that cities and states want to charge a lot of money to put the towers up in their municipalities. There you go. Oh, Nebraska. All right. 5G wireless updates. When is 5G coming to the U.S.? Updated for 2018. This is from August 15th. 5G service is not available yet. Release dates are different for every carrier. With that being said, there's talk the U.S. government will nationalize 5G. Trump's been rumbling about that a little bit, which might mean they implement it themselves, a project that could drastically affect the release of 5G in the U.S. And actually, the carriers are torn about this, because if they nationalize the 5G, so if the United States government says, we're going to put up towers along every interstate for 5G, so the interstate corridors will all have 5G, it would be done in like a year. But the challenge here is, then who owns the network? So the people paid for the network in tax money, but AT&T doesn't own it, Verizon doesn't. How does that impact net neutrality, for example? There's a lot of weirdness in this that that's not understood. AT&T's 5G trials in Austin and Waco, Texas, Kalamazoo, Michigan, and South Bend, Indiana, 2017, and we'll have mobile 5G in cities by 2018, which is like what we talked about in the Husker Stadium when 4G was launched. Some cities identified for AT&T include Dallas, Atlanta, Waco, Charlotte, Raleigh, and Oklahoma City. T-Mobile says it won't be till 2020. Sprint it plans to provide 5G service in several cities in the first half of 2019. New York City, Phoenix, Kansas City, they're based in Kansas City, Atlanta, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. However, given that Sprint and T-Mobile are looking to merge into one company, which did happen, the race to 5G might get there quicker. Verizon is performing tests. They plan to release 5G in a few cities by the end of 2018. That's this year. A few of the first Verizon 5G releases will be during the second half of 2018 in Houston, Sacramento, Indianapolis, Los Angeles. Verizon will bundle Apple TV, 4K, and YouTube TV with customers to help incentivize. Some of those cities where the Verizon first tested 5G, so they might get 5G in other test locations after that, include Atlanta, Brockton, Dallas, Bernardsville. Where's Bernardsville? Somebody tell me, where's Bernardsville? Denver, Ann Arbor, Seattle, Miami, and Washington, D.C. So basically, Charter says the same thing as Verizon, basically. So 5G is coming, guys. It'll be a couple years, though. Out in the sticks. Yeah, about your only hope of getting 5G out in the sticks is going to be either a long, long wait, Thomas, or nationalization, probably. All right. When I play a YouTube video in Chrome, they are jumbled and unviewable. But when I play the same videos in Firefox, no problems. What gives? Uninstall and reinstall your Chrome. There's a decoder problem. So if you remove Chrome from the computer, restart the computer, and then reinstall it, you'll be good to go. All right. Restart a couple times. Had it work? Yep. Put the antenna on private property. That's the problem. The cities are concerned about the safety of these small antennas because they're quite powerful and very small, and anything that takes the city's money away is a concern. Oh wait, no, sorry, we're concerned for the safety of power line workers, and because you have, of course, no matter where you put a tower, you have to get a permit. So now here's the thing: if you were going to be serious about this, the way that you want to do it on the cheap is put these little antennas inside businesses. So, hey, Schrock Innovations, we'll give you $10 a month to put a 5G antenna inside your Schrock locations. So, we'll give you $30 a month, and you can run the antennas and you just hook them into your Ethernet basically. So we're going to be using your Ethernet, your bandwidth, but you provide the antenna. We'll give you $30 a month to credit for your use of your bandwidth. And they could deploy the antennas across the country overnight doing something like that. I'm surprised Google hasn't thought of that yet. All right, guys, got to wrap it up. Thank you for joining us for the AfterSchrock today. We'll look forward to seeing you in the service centers this week. Remember, today is the last day for the preventative maintenance checkup. As you probably know, you guys are the AfterSchrock listeners, this show will air next week in Des Moines. So when I say today is the last day, that means you have till next Sunday. Okay? So just Inside Baseball, it'll stay on the website and everything. But if you want to go ahead and purchase today, you can do that and get it all taken care of. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you again next Sunday for another edition of Compute This.